Howdy, everybody. Chess College, how you doing? Here we are, the week after Halloween. Hope your Halloween was spooky and you got a lot of goodies, and you got to dress in as your favorite Marvel characters. I was off for a couple days last week. I was on a trip out of town, so I didn't do a lecture, two of them, like I usually do. I'll try to make up for it this week. I hope you guys are got all the assignments. You're well in hand. The grading goes on. Keep up with your journals. I'll assign another essay later on, but not tonight. But tonight, I want to briefly talk about genre films and why they matter. It's just a way to categorize films. I mean, do you go to movies because of the subject, the actors in them, or the director? Do you even pay attention to directors anymore? Do we know directors like we used to? It seems like a lot of current films are directed in a kind of generic collective style. So we're the Alfred Hitchcocks, we're the Steve Spielbergs, um, the Howard Hawkses, the Sam Peckinpahs, the Martin Scorseses. I don't know. There's a few out there that have their own individual styles. Quentin Tarantino would be definitely one of them. Um, Christopher Nolan has his definite personal style. You could spot him. And so you might go to their films because you support their art. Or does that really matter? I just watched a movie this last weekend. I have no idea who the director is. Um, I went to a movie theater for the first time since the pandemic, folks. I stopped going to movies because I don't like the movies theater here in Reading. They're just the blockbuster stuff. And so when I travel, which is frequently, I like to go to theaters in different towns. But because of the pandemic, last time I was in a lot of these places like Portland and Seattle, the theaters are closed because of the pandemic that we went through. Now everything's open. Theaters are struggling. So I was recently central coast of California, a little sweet town called Morro Bay. They have a nice theater there called the Bayview, and I went to see a movie. It's my first one in 3 years in a movie theater. Tired of watching these things streaming on my TV over there. I'd rather go to the movie theater, but I'd lost the habit. Um, it was not a great movie. It was called Dumb Money. I like some of the people in it. Uh, it's based on a real story about some kid who buys this game stock and then he becomes a millionaire. And a lot of people who listened to him got money, real money, but the Wall Street didn't like him because he was not one of the billionaires. They actually tried to stop him, but they didn't. They failed. It was the typical David and Goliath story, and David won this time. So often Goliath usually wins. Anyway, I enjoyed the experience. Had my Coke and popcorn, actually a root beer, and I was glad to be back in a darkened theater, about 25 people in there. Everybody was quiet, everybody's respectful, and it felt good to be back in a place I've been going to since I was 5 years old, movie theaters. Uh, it's what I would consider my church. Um, went to a movie sometimes 2 or 3 times a week for 35 years. Um, Now that's not possible because the movies don't stay down. I'm having trouble with my cat here. Just stay off me. He wants to come up on the TV screen. They hate these screens. They like to be right on them. Stay down. Anyway, where was I? So today, it was a great for me. It was a good weekend because, well, Morro Bay's a great place. I went down to see a rock band. All right, get off here. Go over there. I'm trying to get my rid of my cat. Um, a band of heathens. I'm a music guy. I played in bands, and so I like to go see live music when I can. But not so much in Reading. It's a little too much bluegrass and hillbilly music here, and I like rock and roll and punk rock, etc. Not that band of heathens is punk rock, but they're a good, solid Americana band. Music, I'd say. Anyway, my point is I was happy I went to the movie theater. Now I feel like I'm back. I want to go see more. Of course, there's nothing I want to see here in Reading. Um, So I have to be pick and choose again. So it's good to be back. All right. So today it got me thinking about how generations are so different with the movies they watch. Obviously, I watch different stuff than you're watching. Your parents watch something. Um, I don't know what you watch. If we were in class together, we'd be talking about it, but we're not there. So maybe we should start a discussion this week. We will. I'm going to make it. What movies have you seen in a movie theater lately? Talk about them. Why? Did you enjoy the experience? Did you not like it? Is it too expensive? Yeah, I know all that stuff. But why? Why not? Let's talk about that in the discussion. I'll post it later today or this week at least and participate in that. You know, the discussions are part of your participation grade. I do go in there and look at it and I say who's talking, who isn't. So do speak up. You have an opinion, you have a voice. Now's the time to let it roar. So this week I'm looking at different genres and how they shaped who we are, our American consciousness. Um, and the main genres, we've talked about it before: musicals, sci-fi, science fiction, westerns, horror, rom-coms. Uh, it's all changed now. We don't see hardly any westerns anymore. I grew up with westerns. On at one time when I was a kid, in the 60s, there was like something like 30 or 40 westerns on TV. I mean, series, like The Rifleman, Bonanza, and Big Valley, and all, a lot of westerns. We grew up with them. Now we're farther and farther away from the Old West. We don't see too many anymore. Once in a while, they do show up in a movie theater, and they I think they do okay. But usually, a lot of it's based around gunplay. Like that's all they did in the Old West was kill each other. Not true, by the way. Anyway, so that genre's kind of faded. It's kind of been replaced by science fiction. You know what they say about Star Wars and a lot of sci-fi is westerns set in outer space, which is kind of true. Good against bad. Good guys, Darth Vader was the bad guys in black, by the way, and the good guys are all wearing white. Pretty simplistic, really, when you come down to it. The genre tropes that everybody uses still is relevant to films today. So I would say that science fiction has taken over that and fantasy. Now, I would put in superheroes as not science fiction, folks, because there's no such thing as a person with superpowers. Science fiction is based on science. It might be fiction, but it's actually based on something that could possibly be. Um, Sorry, there is no Superman. There is no Ant Man, Spider Man, Wonder Woman. Sorry, doesn't exist. So I put those in fantasy, and that's become a huge popular subgenre of science fiction because it's all speculative and fantasy, fairy tale. Superman's a fairy tale. It is good against bad. A guy who could fly. Um, you know, um, so that's become kind of the go-to for marketing in American movies right now. The They can't wait for another Marvel comic book to come out, yet another one. There's so many of them. And over the last couple of months, I've been watching quite a few of them. DC ones, especially. I watched all the Batman, Batman Rising, Super Dark Knight goes to sleep, Dark Knight wakes up, Dark Knight goes to the work in the morning. Some of the stuff is really good, but it's all essentially he's fighting evil, and the evil's gotten a lot worse. In the old days, the Joker in the comic books and stuff was not a murderous psychopath. Um, Now he's just a guy killing everything in sight, and he's pure, utter evil. Um, no humor in it. I would say that's what's missing in these new uh, Dark Knight. There's no humor at all, zero. The Batman series in the '60s was all a joke. They mocked it. They were mocking themselves. It was fun. It was because a guy running around in tights and a cape and a mask. named himself after bats is kind of campy. You got to admit it. It is. But now they've taken it so serious. He's all in black. He talks in a gravelly voice, and he's not a superhero. That's why I probably prefer the Batman series because he's a regular guy who has to work out at the gym an awful lot because he jumps off buildings, folks, and he lands on his feet somehow. So he's always jumping off buildings and landing. But now he's got a lot of high tech helicopters and Batmobiles and Bat motorcycles, and because he's rich, he can afford all that, evidently. Anyway, so the superhero thing has become a definite dominant fantasy genre of what would be science fiction in the early days. But are we getting tired of that? Has that played its out? My opinion, it has. People are wondering another superhero movie. What are they going to do now? How many cities are they going to destroy? How many bad guys are they going to create? Maybe we've hit a wall on that. And in my opinion, I'm done with it. Um, I was done with it before it started, but then I'm an old school cinephile who likes things like Mar Bergman and David Lynch. I'd rather have a clever horror film than a slasher film, okay? Because it's not clever. It's just violence for violence sakes. They call it porn violence. Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3. I think there's 10 of them now. Saw movies. That's porn violence. You're watching it to see a guy or girl cut up with saw blades and stuff. It's like watching porn. You're not there for the love story. You're there for the you know what. Um, Same with the Saw movies. You're only there for the violence, not for the oh, what's their motivation? So genres are important when it comes to categorizing these things because we have to categorize everything we do. Um, how would you categorize your last film you saw? How would I categorize this movie I saw over the weekend? Um, they advertise it as a comedy. It's nothing funny about it. It's not a rom-com. There's no romance in it. There's no sex in it. It's just all the women are playing housewives. It's male driven. It's about Wall Street. I don't know if it has a genre. It's a .com genre because the guy makes money off of dot, you know, stocks. Is that a genre? I'm not sure. Anyway, it'd be hard to describe what genre dumb money is. Was the movie that smart? No, it wasn't. It's hard to call your movie dumb money when your movie might kind of be not that smart either. But it was David Glass story, and David won, so we were rooting for the that guy, and that's fine. We always want to root for the underdog. In this thing, he did win, and it was historically accurate. It's truth, supposedly. So other genres in the day, like I said, westerns, um, would be musicals. Now you don't see too many musicals at all anymore, and if we do, they're um, they're not like the old musicals of the 30s and 40s where they're singing and dancing and having a great time. They're now not so. They're not having a great time. I'm trying to think of a couple new musicals recently. Mamma Mia. These are movies I don't care for them. Into the Woods, anything that Stephen Sondheim writes, that's the musician who died last year, is worthwhile. Maybe you saw Johnny Depp and Sweeney Todd. It's not a very good movie. Sweeney Todd's a great musical, but it was not a very good movie. It's okay. At least it got made. So they every once in a while they'll take a Broadway play and make it into a musical, like Chicago. Hell, that's already 15 years old, and people go to them. They're enjoyable, but uh, they're not as dominant as they were in the 30s and 40s and in 50s. I'm going to post a sample of one of the great musicals of all time, um, "Singing in the Rain." A new musical that I love, but it's already 40 years old, is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Came out in 1970. Hold on, 5? Lord, 48 years ago, and it was a bomb when it came out. Got a great soundtrack too, and the great Tim Curry singing his guts out. Fun romp that you should watch every Halloween. Maybe you've seen the play. Maybe you know the music. Um, so musicals were. I'll show you some examples of that. Some examples of what a good sci-fi film would be. A real one, like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Um, Silent Running. They actually try to make the science real. Outer space became unreal. Pardon me for 1 minute. You're a bad boy. You know that you're just bad. Um, they should try to make sci-fi more realistic. How it really is in outer space. Star Wars blew that all out. Star Wars is a cartoon in outer space with sound effects. There's no sound in outer effects, folks. There's no sound in outer space. It's a vacuum. There's no air to breathe. There's no sounds to hear. And those after Star Wars, every movie start all of them now have you can hear the jets jetting around up there. You can hear the gunfire. The lasers are firing. That's to add an excitement to the scenario. Do we really need that? I preferred it when they made outer space real. It's almost more terrifying. Um, Aliens is another good sci-fi movie. It's a mystery. The first one, uh, second one's a combat film. Really, really well done. Aliens Part Two. After that, they kind of lost steam. So sci-fi was a huge, huge genre that I don't see too much actually going on right now. That's science fiction, science fantasy. Yes. So other genre that is we just talked about last week, horror genre is still very popular. I think we're looking more at violent type of horror instead of psychological horror, which I personally prefer, and it's harder to pull off, but it's still a popular genre. Maybe you guys are writing your papers about that. I hope you are. I think they're due today. Anyway, why does horror matter? Why is it so popular in our culture? That's another reason why it's kind of important to put a categorize these things like we do everything. We categorize our food, our cars, our houses, our life, our cats. Oh, what kind of cat is that? What kind of car is that? What kind of we categorize everything. It gives us answers, we think. There's not a lot of room to think about things when someone goes, "Oh, I drive a black Porsche." They know who you are now. They know who who you are as a person, they think, by the car you drive or the color of the car. Or if you ride a bicycle or motorcycle, you're categorized. You're put into a slot, easily slot. And I don't know if I even have a favorite genre. I don't. Um, I like a good movie, and I'll take whatever comes. If it's a good movie with a good story, good script, I'm watching these series right now. Maybe you've seen them. It's on Hulu. They're based on Agatha Christie. I think they're really well done. Haunting in Venice, Murder on the Orient Express, which is a remake, and the other one is they're going up the Nile River. I can't think of the name of the movie, but they're all really excellently done. Really good acting, good scripts, not a lot of blood, and they're all set in the early 30s in the world, and so we don't have a lot of vulgar language at all because they didn't talk that way in those days, at least not in Agatha Christie books. A good, solid murder mystery. It's fun to try to go along on this journey. Who did it? A good who done it is a good genre. It would be a subgenre of what? Murder mystery, possibly horror. Anyway, so that's another good category of mysteries. They're very popular on TV. We got Law and Order and Law and Order this, Law and Order. Is it Law and Order for every state in the union? We love these. If you listen, look at British TV, it's all murder mysteries. There's a detective or a policeman after killers on every channel there is. So obviously, we don't get tired of that genre. It. There's a comfort there to it, I believe. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get hopefully some satisfaction. The crime's going to get solved, hopefully. Um, and so there's this kind of release. You could be scared. You could be confused, not understand the whole thing, but there's going to be an answer at the end of the movie. And those mysteries provide that. So you know at the end of a musical what's probably going to happen. A good song and dance number. Maybe you'll love the music. Maybe you still sing the music to yourself. You go to it because you're going to get something out of it that you're familiar with, and that's why these genres matter. Um, so I'm going to post um, some samples of this stuff. You guys tell me what you think in discussion. What is your favorite genre? Do you go to movies based on a genre? Tell me what the last movie you saw at a movie theater. That'd be great. Um, Welcome to Monday. We've got about 6 more weeks of class. We're down to the wire. The next time you hear from me, we're going to be talking about the 1980s films, which is a trying time in Hollywood. And I can't wait to explore it with you. So I'll see you in a couple days when the story film continues.